I'll pray for you guys because it's going to be tough. Thank you very much for letting me speak before you.
Thank you. Next proponent, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me. My name is John Redman. I am the Executive Director of CADFI, a statewide coalition in California, as well as the Drug Demand Reduction Coordinator for the HIDAs of California, or the high-intensity drug trafficking areas. One of the national initiatives out of our office in San Diego is the National Marijuana Initiative, where I also serve as the Drug Demand Reduction Coordinator for that initiative as well. I came here to talk to you today about some of the problems that we have found in California and to show you some of the very large mistakes that we have made and hope that Montana doesn't follow suit. In 1996, Prop 215 was passed by the voters, which was the Compassionate Use Act. That act allowed citizens to have an affirmative defense in court on the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. Later, the Medical Marijuana Program, or SB 420, came effective in 2004, which essentially gave those people an ID card given by the county that helped identify them. That was it. That was essentially the total of what the medical marijuana bills were passed down for. There was no way to regulate the dispensing of marijuana in terms of dispensaries or what they called within the bill collectives or cooperatives. What they said was that people in California could grow marijuana collectively or cooperatively, and these are adverbs, not nouns. They could grow them collectively to help each other out in a closed-loop system where they all discussed what they were going to do and all had a vote on it. What has popped up are quote-unquote collectives or cooperatives throughout California, which we call dispensaries, that are illegal. And 99% of them in California are just that. They are illegal. And attorney at the time, our present governor, but at the time, the Attorney General of California said that storefront dispensaries, as such, are illegal in the state of California and outside the law. But yet, in the last few years, we have had an explosion of dispensaries. In Los Angeles, there are over 1,000, or there were at the peak, over 1,000 dispensaries in Los Angeles alone. And to give you an understanding of what that is, to compare that, that's more dispensaries in Los Angeles than Starbucks. That's more dispensaries in Los Angeles than schools. That's more dispensaries in Los Angeles than McDonald's. And yes, we have a major problem. We also have over 200 lawsuits on the books in Los Angeles as they have tried to regulate them and tried to shut them down, tried to control them. That fostered 200 lawsuits on the books in Los Angeles alone. In San Diego, we have 180 dispensaries, which is more than we have pharmacies in the city of San Diego. These storefront dispensaries that are supposed to work as collectives or cooperatives really are, what they do is they say, what we'll do is if you bring us your letter of recommendation, because you can't get a doctor's prescription. If you send us your letter of recommendation and designate us as your primary caregiver, which under the law in California says that you provide for the general health and housing and safety of that patient, that we'll be your caregiver. But it never says under the law, under Prop 215, that a caregiver is solely their drug distributor. But that's what they do to try to get around the law. And so we've had a number of problems with medical marijuana throughout the state. There are a number of issues that come out of these dispensaries, not to mention armed robberies and murders. Throughout California, there are many violent crimes that have been committed that can be traced to the proliferation of marijuana dispensaries in California. A series of 4 armed robberies of a marijuana dispensary in Santa Barbara, California occurred in August 10th, 2006, which $30 and 15 bags filled with marijuana were taken and removed from the premises. But it's not just the robberies, it's also the murders. In 2005, 18-year-old DeMarcio Lowry was shot in the stomach. He bled to death during a gunfight to protect his business. And we're finding that all over the place. In just this last year, in June of this last year, there were 2 murders in Los Angeles alone. One of those, the cashier was shot in the face. And for those of you who know about gang activities, when you're shot in the face, that's a gang warning, which essentially says, this is our territory, these are our drugs, and either you pay us, we extort money, or we'll kill you. And that's what's going on now in the dispensaries in California. We have a lot of traffic noise and drug dealing out of these dispensaries, increased noise and pedestrian traffic, including non-residents in these residential area dispensaries in pursuit of marijuana. And because they're criminals that come out of it, their normal citizens are subject to prey and commonly encounter issues outside of the marijuana dispensaries with drug-related offenses in the vicinity. We have organized crime and money laundering and firearm violations within our dispensaries in California. Or organized crime involved in the ownership. They're now taking over the dispensaries and operating marijuana dispensaries, including criminal street gangs and at least one member of the Armenian Mafia. Now, we work with some ex-gang members of the Mexican Mafia, and what one of them told me is, Mr. Redman, the gang members are going to go into these dispensaries. Because, are you kidding me? This is a place that has drugs that I don't have to pay my middleman. It also has the benefit of cash that I can take, and in many cases, guns that I can collect. These are places of prey for gang members, and they will go there. We also have the proliferation of grow houses in residential areas, because the THC, when I went to college, was, what was that, a few years ago, right? It was about 1 to 6% THC. The indoor grows, the THC content now is around 14 to 27% THC. To get that BC bud quality requires very strict environmental controls. And so the best way to do that is in houses. So in my own community in San Diego, just one neighborhood, there was a group of young college students who purchased or who rented 10 houses and did indoor grows, ruining each and every one of those houses. The mold, the ripping out, the rewiring of those houses, to where in some cases they have to be completely condemned. And we're finding that in California constantly. Also, the life safety hazards created by those houses. It's not just the destruction of the houses, but it's also the destruction of life. In Humboldt County, California, structure fires caused by unsafe indoor marijuana grows have become commonplace, and people have died in those fires. Increased organized gang activities where organized criminal gangs operate and profit from them were discovered. There were 50 indoor grow operations in San Francisco alone where the gangs had operated indoor grows. Not to mention the exposure of minors to marijuana because of these. There are 2 indelible truths in drug prevention, if you want to look at drug prevention. One is that if you decrease the perception of harm or risk in a drug, you increase its use in youth use. If you increase the availability or access of a drug in a neighborhood, you increase its use. Medical marijuana does both, and therefore we're seeing a rise in drug use in our youth in California. In my neighborhood, well, in San Diego, we have more kids in youth treatment facilities for marijuana than for all other drugs combined currently. So it absolutely is affecting our youth. And finally, the loss of business and tax revenue. In Oakland, California, where you've heard about the explosion of marijuana grows and things that people want to see, the federal government, through the U.S. Attorney, talked to the district attorney and the city attorney and said, if you want to tax these, if you're thinking about taxing dispensaries for money, forget it. Because we will come in and take that money, we will sue you, and there are also potentials of criminal liability. That is the federal government's position on these on these grows. So anyone who thinks that through taxes they'll get more coffers into their cities or states, the federal government has come down in the recent weeks in California saying no, that will not happen. We are against it. So ultimately, it comes down to, in terms of medical marijuana, is as you open the door just a little bit, you leave a crack in the door, the people that are exploiting it now will exploit it exponentially. And it is very difficult, if not near impossible, if not impossible, to control this system. If Montana opens the door in any way or shape or form for medical marijuana, once that happens, when you try to regulate it, you try to control it, just like in Anaheim, where they said, all right, we want to limit the number of those dispensaries, or we want to limit the number of people, or anything. That goes straight to the courts, and the courts start to make a decision, bypassing the legislature. So I encourage you to look at this and do what's right for Montana. Thank you.